Thank you very much, Chairman. First of all, I want to echo our colleague, Legislator Borgia, the chairwoman of the Budget Committee, for her thank yous to everyone involved. No matter what you feel about the issues of the day, budget in general, but we all work together very hard, day in and day out, and the staff puts up with us as we do that, and we all deserve a big thank you for us. Mine and Laura trying to work together through all the issues, and so you can stand here each year saying that, and I appreciate that fact. Speaking from my side of the aisle, first of all, let me just say that first glance at the budget, it felt very familiar to us. We had, as was just mentioned, budget closures, very similar to how it's been used. So I would call this a lateral move. I wouldn't call this budget a move forward. I would call it a lateral move based on the realities of the budget, things that had to be used, the one-shot sale of properties around the county, not mentioning the big one, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Some surplus health funds were used, actually up to $8 million. Bonding for certs, which has been done, as was mentioned, numerous times. So it really wasn't a whole lot different, except we did start with a 2% tax increase. So it seems that 2% is the new zero. Maybe we should put something in the budget room.
We're getting new ones.
I didn't catch that in the budget, but that's good. But the big issue, obviously, that stands out is the sale of the parking lots at the county center. And the county attorney did a great job. I want to thank him for coming in to the committee to try to explain the background of it, the legal justification that's being used for it, preliminary terms at the very least. But what it did was fill at least a third of that budget gap. And with having more questions than answers for such a large plug in the budget is concerning to us. It was stated that it was worth $22 million. Now it's all of a sudden it's $23 million. There was no, I had asked in the committee meeting to have a appraisal, which I still have not seen for the $22 million. Forget about the fact that now an extra million has been added on, so it's $23 million proposed value for that property. Maybe it could have been 24 or 25 if we needed it to be. So we didn't get that. There had been some confusion to a degree on what exactly are we talking about. What park properties, what parking lots are we talking about? There seems some confusion. So I had asked, and we be provided with a map of just circling the lots that we're talking about. I was never provided with that request. So we don't even know exactly the properties, or at least I don't know, on our side does not know exactly what lots are being discussed. We think we know, but we're not sure on that. I think we couldn't help but think, what if this happened a year or two ago? Oh my goodness, there would have been pitchforks and torches all around the office building. There would have been screaming and yelling. It would have been mayhem. You would have thought that Lon Chaney or Bela Lugosi was up here. Maybe even Peter Boyle or Marty Feldman. Some of you will get that.
I got it.
But we just think, that would have been catastrophe in terms of what some people would have thought. So we're concerned about it. We think it asks more questions than answers. And then, of course, the implications on the whole park system. If there's a law from 1961 that the Westchester County does not have to follow the alienation process, because that was the first thing we thought, okay, the plan is to alienate some property. Boy, that's a tough process to go through at the state level. That takes a long time if it happens at all. But lo and behold, there's a law that says we don't have to. So that's interesting that nobody knew that ahead of time. before this year. Secondly, it was suggested that maybe parking lots are not really a part of the park, they're not parkland. Well, every park that at least in my area, and most of the parks that I've been through in the county, you have to go through the entrance to the park, then you can park and enjoy whatever the rest of the park is. So I would assume and suggest that the parking lots are definitely part of the park. And then, of course, the other question is whether they're needed or not, whether the right of first refusal law kicks in or not. All answers questions that have not been answered. So we're, in essence, plugging a third of the hole in the budget without even knowing the answer to very critical questions that would impact the future of the county. Disappointing to me that was not included in the budget and has not been discussed this whole past year is the airport, Playland, and North 60. The airport has to be done. There has to be a private-public partnership move forward with the airport. It's the future revenue source. It's the way to have control of planning the future of the airport. You've used the airport in Westchester. It's a great airport. You compare it to some of the other smaller airports around the country, and it's very deficient in many ways. Some of the rhetoric that has surrounded the airport needs to be clarified because it's not true. We understand, of course, people's quality of life, but actually quality of life can be made better moving forward, and obviously the revenue sources are important. And the concern that I had in the budget hearing, presentation I should say, from the airport, quite a bit of money of the reserves are being used for different projects around the airport that could have been shared with a private-public partnership at that airport. And I'm starting to wonder, after using basically a third of the reserve and all of the stipend from tickets that has piled up, $5 million of that, I'm wondering is the plan to devalue the airport so much that maybe nobody wants to partner and go into that. It could be a real mess down there. So I have concerns about the airport. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping we can move forward in this calendar year. That is a long-term, many-year approach, which is what really is needed for budget planning. Playland, another agreement that has stalled. We don't know why. Hopefully that will kick in again. Another partnership that will help share in the expense of the Playland based on preliminary discussions and based on what has been discussed so far in caucus and committee and with the parks people themselves. We're talking and also depending on the pool, which from what I understand an RFP for design has just been sent out. So we're talking up to 80, maybe even $100 million of expenses. So we expect the taxpayers of Westchester to foot the bill, possibly $80 to $100 million for an amusement park. I think maybe that 1961 law may come in handy at some point. And thirdly, the North 60 project, which is an extremely forward-looking project going forward many years. We know the real money comes down the road, but the agreement, if it was signed, we understand it was not signed, would have brought in over $100,000 a month this past year. So the county collected over $1 million in revenue this year just from that agreement alone. I know there was discussion about housing, which is now off the table. For the most part, it's not really impeding the project moving forward. Hopefully that project gets back on track this year. So those are three major projects that not only revenue, but cutting back on expenses, which obviously we're going to look at all the time as well. So based on the discussions we've had, it seems very clear to me and to us that the real solution or the real saving grace to the county seems to be the hope and plan that New York State will allow Westchester to increase the sales tax. Now that is something beyond our control except for the home rule message I'm sure we'll have to send at some point to our state representatives. I would have liked to have seen a statement from our state delegation saying that they do agree with this approach, and they will bring this forward with their colleagues at the state. We have not seen that, so maybe some know more than I do. I know it's a big chunk of change, as was talked about in the discussion. $50 million would come to the county out of roughly $70 million revenue if it was a 0.5% increase. Again, in this coming year, we don't know if that does get approved, when it would get approved, so it would be prorated. I think it was estimated that possibly be enacted by September, which means we would get roughly, I think it was estimated by O'Connor Davies that we would get about $26 million for the 2019 calendar year. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. State representatives have 60+% salary increases they're dealing with right now. Some don't even think that's enough. So I think they're going to have their hands full with some other things. I don't know if they're going to want to put a regressive tax onto the residents of Westchester, but we'll see. Maybe that will happen. And if that happens, obviously, a lot of the problems go away, but they don't go away forever, which is why those 3 projects, what I'm talking about, are the real future planning for the county. $50 million seems like a lot of money. That's used up pretty quick, as we have heard in testimony as well, with the new CSEA contract, which took $30 million out of our reserve just before the budget was released, caused us to have a downgrade. That gets made up real quick at $50 million. We have new expenses with the new contract of $3 million a month that we didn't have last year. So as time goes on, expenses grow that are out of our control, so we need to put some things in our control. The other concern I have is to raise the age issue. We have been assured that we were going to get our reimbursement 100%. There's been some question about how much that is, how much it's going to cost. I'm not going to get into the program itself, but usually when things like this happen and governments have to run programs, it usually is a lot more than originally suggested, and it grows pretty quick. So, yeah, we may get reimbursed the first year, but I would not count on it going forward indefinitely. We know how things happen once they get out of here and get up into Albany. Anything can happen. I hope I'm wrong with that as well. We have to keep our eye on that as we go forward. So, the final question I have is, if that sale tax issue does happen, if it's approved by the state and we're able to do that and realize that revenue that's been projected, do we still sell the parking lots? So we're going to sell the parking lots on top of getting the sales tax, or the parking lot sale issue going to go away if we get the revenue from the sales tax? Another major question that we need answered. So many questions. We will not be able to support this budget. We hope some of our answers will come. We look forward to working together with our colleagues and the county executive on our issues I mentioned, and we hope to make those things come to fruition and make the future of Westchester financially better. Thank you.
Thank you.